Welcome to Between Two Psychs, a podcast where two psychologists and board-approved supervisors deep dive into many of the questions and challenges that provisional psychologists and early career therapists face in everyday practice, during training, throughout the internship, and beyond as they progress into working more independently. Your hosts, Isabelle Tombleson and Claire Trevitt, talk about a range of topics specifically relating to psychologists and therapists who are just starting out. Hi everyone, it's Claire here with another solo episode. This is to all therapists who compare themselves to their colleagues. So if you are somebody who has ever compared yourself to a colleague or another therapist, you are certainly not alone. Certainly something that I have done in my career, and I think that every therapist I know has done this at some point, including the ones who are very competent and accomplished. Because many of us can often sit with the feeling that others might be better at doing something, that they seem to know exactly what they're doing, or we may take the belief that we could never do what they do. We see them, we see how polished and accomplished that they are, and we imagine that we could never actually get to that point. And I think this is a really important topic to talk about because I do feel that it impacts so many of us, particularly with social media, where we see so many polished posts and we see people talking about what they consider important in their work. They convey knowledge, they impart tips and skills, and it can often lead us to feel that these people are providing something that is more or better than what we have to offer. So I just want to start by saying that comparison is actually part of being human. So our brains are wired to scan and assess and compare. So it can certainly be motivating at times and it can help us grow. We can see people that we aspire to be like, and we go to a conference or we attend some training and we can get very, very inspired by people who can impart a lot of wisdom, and we can come away feeling quite energized and feeling quite motivated by that. So it's not all bad, but sometimes it can, if we do it to the extreme, it can quietly chip away at our confidence. And that's often because we're comparing the messy behind the scenes of our own practice to the very polished highlight reel of someone else's practice. And we can also tend to magnify others' strengths while minimizing our own. So we can see their clarity, and we can overlook the fact that they may too have experienced some kind of doubt. We see their very calm presence, and it's easy to forget that they may have had a very difficult session and become quite flustered and activated after that. And again, we might admire social media posts or admire how they present on stage if we're watching them or if we're being trained by them. But it's so easy to forget that these are very curated. They're planned and they're prepared. And so, of course, we're seeing the best of these people. And so it's okay to admire others because it can often help us, show us what matters to us. And if we're drawn to someone else's way of working and their warmth, maybe their creativity, their use of particular interventions, and that can be, as I said, very, very inspiring, but it doesn't have to be a measuring stick. It's not about being them. It's about recognizing what we value and weaving it into our own way of working. So when we stay in comparison, we can really begin to shrink. We can really doubt the value of what we have to offer. So we might start to hold back ideas in supervision. We might begin to second guess how we're showing up in sessions. We might begin to second guess whether or not we should even be in this profession, because we find ourselves comparing to others who we see as doing a much better job, or being more proficient, or being more experienced, or being more skilled, being more of everything than we possibly could be. And we can sometimes forget what brought us here in the first place. And that is often a very unique mix. So, what we bring to the table, so our unique mix of our personality, our lived experience, our views and perspectives, and our values, and our interests in particular modalities or theories, this can all shape how we relate to our clients, how we attune to our clients, and the support and intervention that we provide to our clients. And that is going to be very, very different to what someone else brings. So, no therapist can be everything to every client, and no therapist should be. The therapeutic relationship isn't built on perfect technique. It's built on us being present and being attuned, and on being ourselves. And that can include sometimes being a bit messy. It can include us still growing and learning. And sometimes it can be quite clunky, it can be quite uncertain, but it can still offer something meaningful. When I've completed new trainings, I've often been really transparent with my clients about the fact that I'm learning something new. And if I'm not sure how something's going to land, or if it is going to be a bit clunky, I might say, look, this is something new that I'm learning, but would you be interested in trying this? Because I feel like it might be helpful in this moment. And most clients are going to say yes. And even if it is clunky, they're usually going to get some benefit out of what we have to offer, because usually it is thought out and it is considered. And so it's about thinking about what's going to benefit that client. And often what we bring to the table is a range of different skills that we then begin to choose what we're going to use in sessions. And that is usually based on our own intuition, our knowledge of that client, our knowledge of what we feel confident delivering, and the skills that we have to bring. And so that's going to be so unique and so different. And it's not going to be the same as another therapist who may also have been in that same training, completing the same exercise. They might take it back to their clients in a very different way. It may also be clunky. It will also be new. But of course, when we start to compare, we have this image in our minds of all of the other therapists delivering this in such a perfectly curated way, that is going to, perhaps undermine what we have to offer. So, your background, your quirks, your sense of humour, your timing, your lived experience, we don't want to suppress these things. These are part of what help our clients feel seen. And it's also part of how we build our therapeutic identity. We do need to be ourselves in the therapy room, obviously in the service of the clients and maintaining our professional boundaries. But we do also need to bring ourselves into the therapy room in order to do this work well. But we will also make mistakes, and sometimes those mistakes are also therapeutic because they open up space for repair, authenticity, and a much deeper connection with the client. And so owning a misattunement is actually sometimes more powerful than getting everything right. And so mistakes and imperfection are not proof that you're in the wrong profession. They're actually part of the work that we do, and they are part of becoming a good therapist. So, if you are comparing yourself to others right now. I'm hoping that some of this might land for you. Just notice who you're comparing yourself to and maybe ask yourself what it is that you admire. And then bringing the focus back to you, because you're not going to be a carbon copy of that person. Think about how you can grow into that way of working, taking what it is that you admire and helping that to shape some of your practice while still maintaining who you are, because you're never going to be a carbon copy and you really don't want to be. And so I just wanted to really normalize this, because it's often something that I hear about in supervision and in discussions with colleagues, but it's not something that we necessarily talk about so openly. And I think that these topics are far more common than we realize. And so I just wanted to let you know that you're not alone, and encourage you to just be yourself and let that be enough. I shall see you next time. Thank you for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps others find the show. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Between Two Psychs for more updates and resources. For more information and to explore everything we offer, head over to our website, betweentwopsychs.com.au. We appreciate your support and we'll see you next time.